do an entire service, I won't, but I could, on the power and importance of out-tithing, of being a channel, an open channel through which abundance can express. And I know that that decision by the board is partly responsible for the increasing and continuing health of the organization. So I really, the one thing I would suggest, in ministries I've served, I've always had the outgoing tithe checks in hand for one service, and so the whole congregation can bless them as they go, because it's really your choice, it's your tithe, and that's very important. I think it's great. Well, this will be my only time with you before the new year, after the new year. So I'm going to pretend it's closer to Christmas than it even is, so I can talk about that. But it really doesn't matter, because for me, this is, I probably shouldn't say this, but for me, the real heart of this time of year is the winter solstice. This Thursday, the 21st. That has been a focus of spiritual energy forever, way before there was a Catholic church or a Christian church. It has been just recognized by what I guess Christians would call pagans, but people of great spiritual dimension and understanding. There's something about this time of year. There's something about going into the ultimate darkness and then coming out of it immediately, feeling the light begin to grow. I can remember years in my drinking and drugging days when I was completely lost at Christmas. I was separated from family and just rootless with no place to call home. And yet, there's a magic to this time of year. Those few days from solstice through Christmas Eve into Christmas morning, that is a precious, precious time, isn't it? It's even no matter how bad my situation was, for that period of time, I felt hope. I felt peace, and I still remember that now. Because if I could feel it then, I can certainly feel it now. I have a favorite writer. One of the things that strikes me about the Christian church in general is the way in which it has evolved and changed. And it has evolved from a focus on the Christ to a focus on Jesus. There's nothing wrong with a focus on Jesus. But we miss the universality of the Christ if we simply decide that we are about the individual Jesus Christ. Because there are many people who don't respond to him, but they're spiritual beings nonetheless. And it's our opportunity to tell them that, to help them know who, in fact, they are. This is from a writer named Angela Silesius, who was a 17th century monk and poet and priest. He's known, I love this, he's known as the prophet of the ineffable. That's something to be proud of, I guess. I'm the prophet of the ineffable. I can't give you an answer, I'm the prophet of the ineffable. Here's an example of his ineffable poetry from about 1650. Christ was born a man for me he died. Unless I become as God through him, his birth is mocked, his death denied. Yeah, right? It's very powerful, and it's a very clear statement of what we know to be true today, of what we would today call new thought.
Could you read that again, please?
Sure. Christ was born a man for me he died. Unless I become as God through him, his birth is mocked, his death denied. So you see, he never separated himself from Jesus. He had a very close relationship to Jesus, and his poetry is vivid with it, but he never lost sight of the fact that Jesus was not the focus of the truth. The truth was the Christ. The truth was in the Christ, which Jesus demonstrated so beautifully and so perfectly. But the switch from honoring the Christ that Jesus was all about to honoring Jesus the man, I don't know quite when that happened, but it definitely did. Another thing that Silesius said, which I love, is Christ could 1,000 times in Bethlehem be born, but all in vain unless he is born in me. Christ could 1,000 times in Bethlehem be born, but all in vain unless he is born in me. That's a statement that I carry with me and use a lot. It is a profound realization that it's not enough to worship Jesus the man. It's not enough to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. Jesus never wanted to be your Lord and Savior. He wanted you to be your Lord and Savior, and he wanted to help you get there. So it's very different than being about the Christ. And we are about the Christ, exploring it. What is it? How do we express it? And we have changed. I have seen unity change in the relatively short time I've been with it, 30 years, a little bit more. It's not any longer, as we still have here, it's not about the Christ within you. The Christ within you creates duality. There's the Christ and there's the you the Christ is in. It's the Christ as you. It's recognizing that there literally, totally, completely is no separation between you and the divine. There is no part of you that is not divine. No part. Now you can think of some of the darkest places in your consciousness. It's still divine. It's all a part of the divine. And it's claiming that power that we have to be about. It's even worshiping the Christ isn't going to get us to the kingdom. We'll get to the kingdom when we accept ourselves as the Christ, claim the power that we have, stop talking about coincidences and start claiming that things happen because of choices we make. It's very important. That's very important, don't you think? It's so easy, it's scary. It's scary sometimes to find yourself expressing a power and you think, oh, that's what a coincidence that my thought, my intention is expressing in the world. We have to claim it. It's like the power of tithing. Both individually, ourselves, we have to claim the power of tithing, not giving to the church the way we grew up doing, putting our little quarters in the basket as it was passed, but really tithing, creating a channel through which the infinite of God can flow, so that the amount we're tithing is less important than the energy, the consciousness with which we're tithing it. And of course that's true of everything, but it's especially true when we talk about the flow of money, the flow of prosperity, the flow of good in every way. We have to claim ourselves as expressors of that good. I still slip. I still have to be careful. I use words like channel. I am not a channel of good. I am good. You know, I'm not a channel of prosperity. I am prosperity. And my choices will decide how that prosperity is going to express. And it may express as lack. That can happen. That doesn't mean that I am not prosperity. It means that I'm making choices that allow prosperity to express as lack. This can happen. These things can happen. So in truth, of course, it's not the Christ that we are birthing, whose birth we celebrate next Sunday into Monday. The Christ is eternal, an eternal energy that is never born, can never die. It's the truth of who we eternally are. No, the solstice-centered birth of Christmas asks us to allow a new dimension of the Christ to express through us into the world. And that is what Silesius calls us to do. That is what Jesus called us to do. Be the birth. Become more of the Christ. Allow yourself to become more of the Christ you truly are. It will affect your life. It may affect it in ways that shake it up a little bit. But it's your commitment to continuing to grow in spiritual expression. There's nothing more to understand, I think. Once you understand yourself as the Christ, yourself as spirit in expression, that's as much as that's plenty to work with, I assure you. So it's and as Jennifer mentioned earlier, it's not strictly a Christian realization that this time of year is sacred. Our Jewish friends just celebrated Hanukkah. Again, the light, the bringing of the light, the coming of the light. Hindus celebrate Townley, Kwanzaa. There are many celebrations, all recognizing that this is the time to affirm for a new light, to allow the darkness to envelop us in total confidence that in that darkness we can be a brighter light. And every time we say yes to that spiritual invitation, we are embracing, first of all, the darkness. It's important to embrace the darkness. After all, if there were no darkness, how would the new light be appreciated? There has to be a darkness so that we can see the new light and then allow it to bring the darkness into full expression. And every time we say yes, we become the entire story. And that's something I love to work with at Christmas time. We are not just the Christ about to be born. We are Mary about to give birth. We are Joseph providing mortal support, tangible support, providing the donkey, on which Mary rode. The awe of the shepherds. They didn't know what was going on. They were just blown away by the star. Probably happy to have a chance to leave their jobs for a little while to go and watch a baby in a manger. And the Magi, the spiritual wisdom that alone perhaps understood the larger dimension of light and love, this birth brings the power to create. So we are all those elements. They're all within you. If you find yourself uncomfortable through this holiday season, stop and ask which dimension you're ignoring. We can become so spiritual that we ignore Joseph. It's easy because the Gospels seem to ignore Joseph pretty much. But his is an important role. Ours is an important role. We have to maintain our physicality. We have to maintain our identity in the world. That's an important part of being the Christ. The shepherds didn't understand everything. They didn't go shopping and buy a lot of gifts. They didn't understand what anything was going on, but they knew something was. They saw the light, and they reacted to the light because they had no choice. So who are the shepherds within you? Where in you do you still want to stop and just be in awe at how beautiful the holiday is? At what Christmas Eve, I think, is one of the most sacred times of the year for those of us with a Christian training. There's such infinite power, such infinite potential that there's nothing to do but, like a lowly shepherd, just stand in awe. And those shepherds also stand in awe of you. They stand in awe of the Christ, which you are. You are that light. So you are the newborn expression of light, but you're also the willingness of Mary. You know, we have to be willing to make the changes in our life that will allow the Christ to expand, Christ awareness to expand, Christ possibility to expand within us. We may have to get on a donkey and ride a very long way and in a lot of discomfort, but whatever, we're willing to do it because we want to give birth not to the Christ is already born. We want to give birth to ourselves as the Christ, to new possibilities for expressing that energy. So it really doesn't matter what name we give to this deeply felt time of new possibility. We can call it whatever we choose. We will always feel called to the energy of light in the darkness. The mystery of the solstice will still enfold us, inviting us to give birth in its darkest depths to the source of the light, to becoming the source of the light in greater and greater expression. And it's new every year, isn't it? Last year we became more of the Christ in our Christmas celebrations. This year there's more yet to be expressed. There's always more to be expressed. And there's more willingness to be called for from us. More willingness to truly be that spiritual being we know we are. We know we are. We're afraid of it a little bit. We're still hard getting used to the idea. But the more we claim it, the more we will experience it in our lives. The more we claim it, the more we will be creating the kingdom. Nothing else will create it except our Christ energy as we affirm it and bring it together. So it's a sacred time of year. It's a joyful time of year, no matter how dark it gets. And my hope for you, my wish for you this Christmas, since I won't see you again until the new year, is that you know yourself as all those characters, as Mary, as Joseph, as the shepherds, as the Magi. The Magi within you who know, understand more than any other part of you that there's something profound going on. They're all there in your version of the story. They're all interacting with each other within you. And all of it is to give birth to a new dimension of light, a new dimension of possibility. That is my Christmas wish for you all. Blessings.
Thank you.